my expression for the rest of my life was impacted, and the advocacy for myself was dampened in that moment, and it put me in a different it put me in my place. How and don't we children should be seen and not heard, right?
When life's visible and hidden battles make you doubt that peace, love, and full-on living are possible, We Win Within brings the proof. Guests crack open their great stories that may overlap with what each of us carries, sharing raw truths, hard-won discoveries, and triumphs that illuminate the road for us all. I'm Hindy Stegman, daughter of Holocaust survivors, speaker, coach, and fellow journeyer in life, inviting you to listen, look inside, and claim the champion already rising in your heart.
So, hi, everybody. I'm Hindy Stegman, and you're in for a real treat today on We Win Within. We have a special guest, Jen Hall. I think that's how it the name is. And
It's
if
so
it's wrong,
it's such a simple name. It's like 7 letters, and people are like, "What is your
correct me when you come on. And Jen is going to take us on her life journey. And our life journey all starts at the beginning, our childhood. So, Jen, take it away and tell us your story.
Oh, wow, like no pressure. Here you go. Here's the microphone. No, I love it. And Hendy, thank you so much for taking the time to create the space for people to tune in and hear about other people's journeys. And I know that one of the things that a mentor that you and I both know very well has said is like reading biographies and talk about success leaving clues, and I like to say secondhand gold is as good as new. So to get some insight or wisdom to help people become more aligned and uplifted in their lives by hearing someone else's story, like heck yeah, so it's the fastest way to learn, right? So to
Absolutely.
get it. But then, then some of my friends are like, I have to go experience all the pain, and we all have a little bit of that in us. Like, well, we're like human nature. We have to touch that hot stove. But yeah, it's funny because, I remember being at an event where they did an exercise that asked you to tap into your earliest childhood memory. And if you're listening to this, like right now, you're probably flitting back into your memory. Like, what is your earliest childhood memory? And I actually wrote it was a chapter in an anthology of a bestseller. You can pick it up called "Here Comes the Sun" on Amazon, and it talks about my earliest childhood memory. And usually you can get back to about when you're about 3 or 4. Some of us can go back a little bit earlier than that, but most of us have some happens when our little squishy brains decide to turn about 4 years old. And that's what happened with me. And my passion is with horses and working with people with horses. And it started at that very, very young age. I think I was maybe about 3.5, that my blonde tow hair, like white blonde hair, and I'm coming out of the grocery store with my mom. And I bring up the hair because I remember the pigtails, And after the experience of recalling our earliest memory, I called my mom and I said, "Hey, mom, you remember that day?" And she was like, "How in the world?" This was 40 years ago, not to date myself, but it was a while back. And I'm thinking about it and I was like, wow, it's those core memories that really, those high emotionally driven. And when you have a moment of enlightenment, and that's really kind of what it was. Who knows that you could get that when you're like 4? You see this alignment. And what it was we were leaving the grocery store in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. I'm from a small town in Southeast Missouri. And we were walking out of the store. And you know how during holidays and stuff, they got the big tents for like Christmas trees and fireworks and stuff. Well, it wasn't a holiday that we could really think, but there's the tent, right? The fireworks tent. And so we're like walking out to the car, and the Budweiser Clydesdales are walking out of the tent.
Oh,
And
wow.
again, remember, I'm from just south, south of St. Louis, like the Budweiser Clydesdales, that's their home. And this is what, 1980, the 1900s. And so we're walking out, and these huge horses with hooves the size of dinner plates, walking out. And I was like, gotta see the horse, of course, right? And so we walk over, and and I like pulling the guy's legs. I'm like, can I ride the horse? Of course, it's what you want to say. And he goes, I'm sorry, little girl. These are special horses, and nobody gets to ride these horses. And I'm like, my crocodile tears. I got to pet it, I wanted to ride the horse. So we're walking back to the car, and the distributor's family shows up. And they show up in their big fancy truck and, everything. And guess what pops out of their truck? That's about my age. A little girl. And guess what she got to do? She got to
Oh.
ride the Clydesdale. Yeah. And I was like, but my mom, she marched me right back over there. And she said, now, wait a minute. God bless my mother. God bless my mother. She has her moments of being like that tiger mom that fought for me. And I'm kind of getting emotional about this because it was moments like that when my mom would step in and go, yeah, no, this. Mm-mm. And guess what? I got to ride that horse. And I remember his name. His name was Baron. And he was huge. And I was like 4 years old, and my legs were like doing the splits, and my mouth, big smile. And that was it. I was all over. Like that was like, I knew that horses, it was anything to do with horses. From the Briars to the fact that my father built me a barn instead of a dollhouse, to just anytime I would see one, I would be like, breaking my neck to see him and trying to find ways to be around him. And
Did you have horses when you were a kid? Were you able? No.
no, we lived in town. There was a horse down the road. It's so funny. Again, kind of a semi-rural town in Missouri, farm town. And there was a guy that used to ride his horse down right in front of my house, and I'd wait, like, and I go out. I go past her. And then there was down the road, somebody had their horse tied to a stump in the front yard every summer. That horse stood there like Palomino. It's just the things you remember. And again, for your listeners, I guess the biggest thing I would say about that is, but look for those moments. Look for those moments that you're willing to for those things that you are just so like, you don't really care about anything else. Like, get out the way. I'm going to go see the horse. Like, I didn't care what that man thought of me. I wanted to ride that horse, and I'm 5 years old and cute as a button. So of course,
Have
next
have
thing I
you
know, my
always
mom is looking out the
advocated?
front window, and I'm on some random man's horse in the front yard, you know?
Have you always advocated for yourself?
Um, that's it. No, the answer to that is no. When do we lose that? And I love your format. I love the way you're like, let's start back with that like the childhood memory. Like, when did the child say it's not okay for me to have a voice anymore? And I know exactly when it happened. And I'm not sure I'm ready to quite share that on here today, but I
That's
remember
fine.
exactly. And it's funny
How
because
how old were you?
7.
7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 7, and I was in second grade. I will never forget. It was another core memory, but not so nice. It was not tug on the ride the Budweiser Clydesdale. Like, who can say that they've ridden a Budweiser Clydesdale, right? And
It
yeah,
wasn't
that's
a
so
nasty
funny.
teacher, was it? Like a nasty teacher that
It
said
was the
something
nasty
to you?
teacher. It was
Yes,
Mrs. Daniels.
because I can remember. I still sometimes have nightmares about a nasty principal in elementary school.
Well, and her husband was the vice principal of the high school. And I was the young, now you guys, as you're listening to this, like listen to and this is something I teach, but we'll get into that in a minute. Her husband was the vice principal of the high school. She was my second grade teacher, and she did not tolerate shenanigans. And she had a paddle hanging in her by her desk. Remember the 80s when corporal punishment was a thing in schools? Where Mrs. Williams, the other second grade teacher, she had a paddle that she got a paddle for Teachers Day or whatever that they had taken an electric cord and stuck it to the bottom of the paddle so it was electric.
Oh
Hey,
my God.
yeah.
I got a ruler, but never a paddle.
Oh no, they had paddles, and Mrs. Williams had holes in her paddle, so it hurt more. Like she was nasty too. Second grade. That's it. And how old are you when you're in second grade? About 7, right?
Yep.
And the funny thing is that I don't even remember the transgression that
Right.
got me the paddling, but I do remember that my expression for the rest of my life was impacted, and the advocacy for myself was dampened in that moment, and it put me in a different it put me in my place. How and don't we children should be seen and not heard, right?
So if you could describe the feeling when that was
Crushed.
happening,
It's
crushed.
crushed. It just crushes you. Wow, I am. Listen, like you said. Now, okay, you guys, Hindy warned me before we even got on here. She was like, no. As she's like wringing her hands and twirling her mustache. No, she's like, there's things will come up, especially when you start tapping into this. And I haven't thought about this in years. And it was a tough time to have that experience, and it changed the trajectory. Wow. It really
So
did. It was a trajectory change because it told
so
me to
it,
shut up.
besides shutting up, did it tell you that you were a bad girl?
I don't think I had enough like awareness around that word. It
Is
just there was a lot of shame
okay, but is
and
there a word that besides it was shame, but when the teacher was giving it to you,
or like a terror
terror?
because the rule in my house was if you got in trouble at school, you got in twice as much trouble at home.
Okay.
And so going home after that and then having to walk back into the classroom after that, yeah, a lot of, ooh, and a lot of social judgment as a result. And it's funny too, because it's those critical moments, those timelines. And, you look at anybody like Dr. Spock and anybody that does a lot of like childhood timeline work, we're an attritional species. Like, you heard me mention horses earlier. It's like horses are a precocial species. And I think, as much as that was a crushing moment for me personally, I think fast forward 30 years later, it's allowed me to step into my power to serve others who feel that have and felt that same way. Because what I've found is that I'm not the only one that felt like that. And it didn't fit. And you had your principal, I had my Mrs. Daniels. We all have that moment, whatever it looks like. And I don't know that we all have it to, shades of gray, but I do feel like we all have an experience like that
Well, we've
causes
all
us to
had
question.
something in our childhood, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
So, have you been
absolutely.
standing up for the underdog? Is that something that as you got older, it was part of your personality? Or you
You
stayed
know,
quiet for a long time?
well, there wasn't much shutting me up. I just couldn't help myself. I had no emotional regulation whatsoever. It was like, see something, say something was like, I think I made that one up, because, even just in this call, you can tell that I use my word quota every day. I never shut up and I don't care, but I cared for a long time, you know, And there was a lot of that, the shutdown and fear base of, well, what is going to be the catastrophe from me expressing myself? Who's going to make fun of me? Who's going to put me in who's going to put baby in the corner, if you will?
So
And
was
I
that
think
very
that,
lonely? Was that very lonely for you?
maybe that's an interesting way to look at it. I never really thought about it actually being lonely, isolating, I guess, maybe,
Okay.
certainly created a lot of self-doubt for me as a young person. And, kind of doing some, and you and I can talk woo woo a little, we time travel, right? So it's like energetically, like going back into timelines. And again, like as developmental learners, that's the attritional species in us. There's different stages of life that those parts of our brains and our awareness are developed. Up until we're about a 35 or so. And once you get to be about that age, you're like, okay, everything's in place. But until then, you're still got a lot of squishy brain going on there. And unlike horses who are full faculty learners at birth, and yeah, they go through stages and they're young horses and they're old and they act different, but they're full faculty learners. They don't develop their frontal cortex at 9. They're done when they hit the ground. And that's where the term, ever heard the term hit the ground running?
Yeah.
That's where it came from. Horses hit the ground with the ability to run from predators. So to really have that awareness about it for yourself as as a developmental species, primates and, people like us, humans, it does take a little bit of understanding. The loneliness, I guess it was, yeah. I think lonely is not the right. I think isolated is a better
Okay.
word. Even though I had, some good friends in high school and, and it was a shell that I actually painted, put myself in. I put myself in a shell because I found out years later, like people would write me, when social media came about and, um, like people would write me and say, Jen, I had such a big crush on you in high school. I'm like, are you kidding me? You would smack me in the back of my head with your algebra book every Tuesday. You liked me? Like, you sure did not like it. So it was just when social media came around, and I reconnected with a lot of people that I had a past story about with, isolation or what have you. I got a little bit different awareness and got a different perspective than the one had been painting for myself, and it allowed me to like clear my glasses a little and see a little
That's a
bit more
really
clearly.
interesting statement because I think that we develop a story about something that happened, right? Years later, you meet the person from our childhood and they have a totally different story and they have a totally different perspective. And it was
I
like,
never knew my
oh,
next door neighbor had the biggest crush on my brother. Like she wrote me, she was like, "Oh, your brother," and he's since passed, but she wrote me that. I was like, "You did?" It's like, well, it makes sense looking back, Now all of her behavior makes more sense. So
so
that's
at
very
what point did you kind of have this, or did you have a point where you had this revelation, this aha moment of, you know, this is who I am and I like it or I don't like it and I want to change my path or I want to change my thinking?
yes. July 31st, 2004. Yeah,
July 31st, what year?
2004.
2004.
Yes. So I'd been around horses, a little here and there and took some lessons growing up. And, my dad had a cattle ranch and that kind of thing, but we never lived there. We still lived in town. He bought the farm after I left. I had to go build all the fence, but it wasn't until after I went to college that, anyway, so there was a lot of like FOMO, from that perspective. I did all the work. But fast forward, I'm 29 or just, I had just, no, I was just about to turn 30. So 2004, my birthday's August 16th. So 2 weeks before my 30th birthday, my ex-husband's out of town. Our marriage was really never meant to be. It was, Tony Robbins will say, well, remember when you guys fell in love in the first place? And I was like, nope, don't remember that because it never happened. Right. There was just a lot of social pressure. I was living with him and I was kind of, broke college student sort of thing. And he said, we either get married or you move out. And I was like, yikes. And then my parents are putting a lot of pressure on me. And so I did, what I thought I was supposed to do and walked down the aisle. And it was funny. Back to the Clydesdales. We had a horse-drawn carriage take us from the reception from the church to the reception. And I was more interested in talking to the carriage driver about the horse than I was spending time with my new husband. We just kissed the bride. And I'm like, so how old is this horse? What's his name? He was 9 years old. He was a Clydesdale named Clyde. So here we are with the Clydesdales again. Apparently I need to get a Clydesdale. But yeah, it was just all kind of coming back to me. And there was a stable. I lived in Kansas City at the time, and there was a stable not too far from my house, White Fox Stable. It's still there. And I would drive by. It's just not every now and then. And I would just do that, the whole thing as I'm, rubbernecking, looking at all the horses out there jumping. And I was like, I really want to take some riding lessons. I really would love, I miss this. I've always wanted to jump. So I wanted to go to the Olympics. I had these dreams and I'd see these horses and I would visualize it. Right. So my ex-husband was out of town on a extended business trip and for 3 weeks. He was gone for a period of time. And it was July 3rd that night. And I'll never forget it. Is it okay if I give a little bit of the details? Because it's not glamorous, but I was shampooing the carpets. We had bought a house in Kansas City, and that house was the cleanest house. Oh my God. Because I really didn't have a life. All I did was work and clean the house and cook for my husband and grow the garden and count the spiders. Right. So I'm sitting there, I'm shampooing the carpets in our 4-bedroom house, including the stairs for no real reason. It's not like they needed it. And I'm watching Meet Joe Black and I'm drinking beer and I'm smoking cigarettes and just like, hey, can I say that word on here? What the frick am I doing? What the actual is what my brain was going. And I will never forget it. It was like 6 a.m. and I'd been up all night shampooing all the houses. Takes hours to do that shit, And I was hitting it from I was crazy. Anyway, I went to go get more beer and another pack of cigarettes. And it's because I'm completely unaware of the time. And I drive to the convenience store, and this is Kansas, so the rules sometimes are a little different. And they wouldn't let me buy any beer. I'm like, it's 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I can't buy beer, and I'm mad. And I buy my cigarettes, and I'm getting my buzz is leaving. I'm getting a hangover. I'm mad. I'm driving. I can't buy beer till 9 o'clock, and it's 6 o'clock, and I'm going to be sober by then. And this is ridiculous. I was like, what is happening? And I kind of had one of those moments where I'm like, all right, no.
You're out of control.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that I was out of control. I was just bored. I really wasn't, because it wasn't because the convenience store was like a block away. It's not, but it was less about being out of control and more about like, where am I? What am I even doing? I am bored and beige. That's what it was. It was just a beige life. The highlight of my day is like the crisscross pattern on the carpet. There's got to be more to life than this. So I looked at the cigarettes in my hands, and I look as the sun is coming up now, and I'm talking to my dogs. Like, what am I doing, guys? I don't know. So I said, I've always wanted to take those riding lessons. if I can quit smoking for 90 days, I'll reward myself with a horseback riding lesson. And in that moment, I took the cigarettes and I don't even, maybe I smoked one on the way home. I threw them out. I threw them all in the toilet and flushed them down the toilet. And then I quit everything. And because I'm kind of, that's just the way I roll. It's like, I'm kind of, if I'm going to all in or all out, shit or get off the pot. So I quit everything, diet soda, no alcohol. I cut out sugar. I quit smoking. I would go to AA meetings that allowed smoking, and I would wear the same clothes and I would smell it. And I would be like, ugh. And I'd never heard of Tony Robbins or personal development or NLP or NAC or any of these, all the stuff that you and I have spent our life like cultivating. Before the call, we were talking, and Hindy and I were like, all these different cool like ways we, have learned kind of the same thing. I knew I had nothing. All I had was a hammer and everything looked like a nail. And the only thing I knew was quit it all. Like just stop it all.
Well, it
So I
sounds to
did.
me like, the expression when your why is big enough, the how becomes easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That riding the horse was such a big why for you, taking those lessons that you were able, I mean, that's think about it, that you were able to give up everything as far as your beer drinking, your cigarette smoking. I mean, people have to wean off of things. They give themselves 6 months, 3 months. You just went, wow, that's it.
Done. Now
Done.
I drank beer after that again, but I didn't ever smoke again.
Okay.
And that was the promise I made. I said I would be, and this is where it got me. You talk about the why. Was my leverage that I had on myself. I would be lying to the horse if I smoked. And I don't lie to my horses. I didn't have horses at the time, but I was like, I'm not. So I started taking just regular, get on the horse. And it was kind of awful because I felt like I was the only one out of the entire barn that went out and spent time with the horse between my lessons. And I was like, I had to get special permission to go out into the pasture and just like feeding carrots and brushing. And he had these little scrapes on his legs from, just being old. And I put, salve on it, and I cared for him. His name was Gamble. I'll never forget him. Never forget that. He was they call him in the horse world, they call him packers, where they just do their job. They'll pack you over jumps. They just do their job. And he was 24, which is kind of old for a horse. Horses live to be about 25 to 35. And I started with lessons with him, and I did a little show, which was kind of fun. And then I discovered something called natural horsemanship. And there's, again, kind of the different modalities. There's a lot of different great trainers out there that are like, think the horse whisperer. That's the way to look at it. And I was like, I saw a photograph of a horse in Colorado, and I was like, that. I don't know what it is. I want that. And I had the dreams of going to the Olympics in what is called 3-day eventing. It's kind of like triathlon for horses. It's 3 different, very different sports that require a horse to be like completely very well-rounded emotionally and physically. Probably one of the toughest sports in the equestrian world. Shocker that would be like, pick me. So, but when I started getting into like the actual natural horsemanship aspect of it and understanding the wellspring that these horses can give to you, and the way they can heal you, and the way they can open the space for you to heal yourself. Before we got on, you guys, Henny's like, you seem a little zazzy this morning. I'm not using the right word. You use a different word, but you said you're a little spicy this morning. I'm like, well, my horses figured out how to open the gate, and they're all running all over the pasture this morning. And so I had kind of a fun and adventurous morning. But I have 5 horses of my own, and I'm fostering one at the moment and training her through rehabilitation. And it took me a long time to get here. I mean, relatively speaking, I got very good with horses right off the bat. And 20 years later, I'll have had my two of my horses for 21 years this year,
Oh, wow.
which is uncommon. The average length of ownership of a horse is about 2.5 years.
So
So
explain to me for a second, because I have never I've ridden a horse, but I've never experienced what you're talking about. Um, I have a little Yorkie puppy, not puppy, she's 9 years old now, but you know, I think having that dog, because I live alone, is in a way, security, and I can give love to the dog and she gives me love. So what happens when somebody comes, whether it's a kid or an adult? I don't know what you work with, children or adults or both. How is it that the horse is able
this is
to?
one of my favorite questions on the planet because pretty much everyone there, because we learn by association, right? You're like, oh, is it kind of like my dog or my cat or my goldfish or my fern? Because I love my fern. I talk to my fern every day. And I'm like, and it used to be like, no, it's not. Horses are a totally different world, right? It's a totally different ball game, and it is. But it's also still the relation to something that isn't judging you. First off, um, and the horses are actually a lot different than dogs for a lot of reasons. Number one, they are not predators. Dogs, even your 9-year-old little Yorkie, is still 99.9% wolf, right? So when you look at horses, like, they aren't looking for the praise and the pork chop like your little nugget does. The horses are looking for proof. Prove to me that I should come to you because I don't need you. Horses are great until humans show up. Whereas dogs kind of like, they need us. They're man's best friend, right? They
Right.
need us. Horses don't need us. So that's one reason. I have about 7,000 reasons as to why, but that's the big one. The second reason is that there is a yin yang, and this is a little bit more in the spiritual aspect of it, or from the ether. There's a yin yang with horses and humans, because again, because they're flight animals, but also because they live in a theta brainwave state. That's why theta healing spoke to me so much, because I'm like, oh my God, my horses do this. They live in theta pretty much all the time, unless they're being chased by the cougar. The
What does
key
that
piece
mean? What does that mean for people that don't know they live in theta? What does that
That's
mean?
that's where I was just going to say. Thank you.
Okay.
It's a great question. So great, good. So let me clarify. And in other words, it's they know when the lion is hungry and when the lion is not hungry, and they can be standing 10 feet from the lion, and they know when they are not hungry. Right. And that's why there's a doctor out there that wrote a great book called Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And they don't get ulcers because they aren't continuously thinking about, where's the lion? Where's the lion? Where's the lion? Where's the lion? What's that song? The lion sleeps tonight. The horses know that, right? Depending on the type of horse it is. And domestication has changed that somewhat. And they are getting more and more domesticated. There is actually, in
Mm.
certain high population areas, though there is a hyper domestication of the horse, but I digress. So the horses live in sort of this sort of baseline coherence, and they can actually feel our heart rhythms up to 4 feet away, and not here, but feel. Like, they have an aura and an energetic field that it can be, depending on the horse, massive. And the time that you spend just even being around them, there's a lot of science that backs this, that'll start bringing you into coherence. And we do all things like um, priming and heart math and breath work and meditation and grounding and all these different things. Just go stand next to a horse, put your hand on their chest, just stand there, and you will not help you. If you do it long enough without your devices and distractions, your brain waves and your heart rhythms will start to get into coherence. And when you're in coherence, your body, your cells start to get happier at a cellular level. And there is now a divergence and a bifurcation between the human's connection to a horse, because like you said, oh, I rode one this one time at band camp, but only about 9% of the population has access to horses. And it used to be 99%, where the poor man had the car. What was it? The poor man had the horse and the rich man had the car. And now it's the poor man has the car and the rich man has the horse. And you look at that and you think about what it is that it has caused that. And it's our detachment from nature, Mother Earth, and specifically horses. And here's why. We were connected 99%. In 1908, the Sears and Roebuck catalog, the number one selling item in the 1908 catalog was a buggy whip. Like, something to do with horses. You used to be able to order a donkey out of the Sears catalog. Can you imagine?
Wow.
So when you think about the way our civilization has evolved, we're no longer on continuous or consistent connection with an animal that can help bring us back into coherence. Like, we wonder why we are now searching for this. And that goes for in nature, like, kind of as a blanket statement, but specifically horses, because our civilizations were built on the backs of horses. You didn't ride your dog into battle. Sorry, guys. Love your dog. Those military dogs are doing incredible work. Thank you for your service. But they didn't call the movie War Dog. It was War Horse. Great movie, by the way. Spielberg, great movie. And when you look at now that we don't have that opportunity to ground, get outside, be in nature, because except for me and bringing my mini into my house, you gotta go outside if you want to be around a horse, and we just don't do it enough.
So I still would love for you to, let's say I have a troubled child, and I bring that child to your farm and you take them through processes of cleaning horses, riding horses. I mean, does it take a while for them to connect and feel the shift within them?
The person or the horse?
I'm talking about the person now.
Yeah. So this is also a really good question, because a lot of people are like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, it's kind of like Yoda and Luke Skywalker. It's like, well, what's in the cave? Whatever you take in, and I know it's a little bit cliche to say, but it's true. Whatever you bring to the horse is exactly what they're going to reflect to you. And and just to clarify, I primarily work with, I don't work with children I just don't. I love them, but I just don't. You would have to be a private client for that. So, I work with primarily executive and entrepreneur women business owners.
Really?
Yep.
So explain that to me.
Women business owners are an entrepreneurs, executives, like they know how to tap into their yang. They know how to get the job done. They know how to do their work in corporate. They know how to navigate. They got the how figured out in a lot of ways. The trouble is that every place else is bone dry. And they're either cutting their fingers off quarter inch at a time, trying to just keep themselves in some form of work-life balance with their yes all day rose mentality, or they're shut down and feeling a lot of the self-doubt that I was feeling about being 7 years old and not being able to speak my voice. So they have figured out how to be successful, but they haven't figured out how to dial it in for themselves and have their own boundaries and speak their own truth. And I have, well, you're familiar with like DISC profile and Myers-Briggs and, all those different personality tests. So I have 4 very different horses that are all like that. Like my Dante, he's my 1,200-pound Tony Robbins. And then Trace, he's my magician. And Maverick is the sovereign. And Bella's, she's like me, never met a stranger, is the lover, but also a little bit worried about whether or not she's being loved in return. And then she'll pour a lot into it. So we tap into, and you see it. the cool thing, Hindy, is that you see it in real time. And you
So
cannot get this
actually,
from a whiteboard. You can't get this from a room full of people saying yes. And you can't get it anywhere else on the planet than to go
so
out there and see how in real time a 1,200-pound animal showing you exactly a mirror of your biggest fear.
so you actually see, to me, when I hear horses, they're horses. And I don't realize that this horse has this type of energy, personality, whatever, and is suited for personality A in the human. And then the other horse, you know, so
And take it deeper, even to take it a little bit deeper than that. It's because because the horse chooses you. So in
okay.
my experience, what I do is I take you through a process where you get centered and grounded and in coherence and all the things and stuff. And then we go out, and then all of my horses are around you. Sometimes they're running and moving, and it's high energy. Sometimes it's just they're eating grass. It shows up different every time. But one of the horses will actually align with you in some way, shape, or form and come over and choose you. I call it the choosing. And it's not that it's the horse that's like you or the horse that likes you or the one that would fit you, square peg and all that. It's the horse that realizes that you, whatever the gap is, whatever that little nugget is that you're missing in that moment, they know. Horses know the way home, man, and they'll choose you for that. And every time, we don't know why in the beginning, but as we start to peel back the onion, by the end of the experience, you go, oh, that's the sound of one hand clapping. Got it. And you take that with you. Like, I got married in 1998, and I still remember the name of the carriage horse that took me to the reception. The Baron, the horse that I rode when I was 4. You're never going to forget this horse that impacted your soul at such a deep and profound level, and either gave you boundaries and allowed you to be more certain and stand in your truth, or like help you realize you needed more focus, and you needed to have take more action towards the things, or a little more confidence in your expression, or you needed to understand what we call the anatomy of trust, like how to trust someone, who to trust, and at what level, mainly yourself. And then to take all of those things and align it to where it's playful and you can create your own magic. We dive into the archetypes, we dive into the levels of consciousness, we dive into the wellspring of you as reflected through the eyes of a 1,200-pound prey animal that is a lightning rod to the divine, because
That is
horses are nature in its finest form.
wow. I've got goosebumps. I mean, I never I I had no conception of anything of what they do. It's just, you hear stories, horses help people, blah, blah, blah. Well, for me, it was just blah, blah, blah. I had no
True. Trust me, that's made marketing real challenging.
I had no awareness. And now I'm saying, oh my God, I've got to come see you. Because which, I mean, I've done so many modalities, but sometimes there are things inside of us that we're not even aware that it's there, right? We're not
Well, yeah,
aware.
you hit me right between the eyes when asking about my second grade teacher. I was like,
Yeah.
dang, I knew that was kind of sitting in the back pew of the church, but I didn't really realize it was ready to be baptized today. But here we are.
But I think that for I don't want to say for almost everybody, but for so many of us, you go to see the therapist, or you're taking antidepressants, or you're doing this and you're doing that. Those are all the mainstream things that you're doing. But imagine what it would be like not to have to say anything to the horse, and it
They
gets
know.
you.
They know. And I did a retreat. It was a plat retreat. There was a platinum partner
Yeah.
retreat. And I did one of those a few years ago, and I had 2 people per horse. So because it's at the retreats, it's not about riding. That's the only place that I actually allow it, unless you're like, working with me one-on-one. But it's a privilege to fork a leg over a horse. Like, that's a privilege. And it's one of the most natural and sexy things you can do. I mean, what other animal can you ride and look sexy, right? Nothing. There's not an animal on the planet that you can actually partner up with and ride around and look sexy other than a horse. That there's such unique creatures. And when we would go out there, the same two people, same horse, same task, essentially the same skill and talent level. So it's not like I have a professional going up against a novice. And the one person would be able to, the horse would do exactly what they wanted. It was beautiful and things and stuff. And then the other person would be like crying and struggling and can't figure it out. And it's what you take into the cave. The horse is going to just stand there and tell you the truth. And the beautiful thing about the horse is that they tell you the truth in the most energetic, healing way possible. And when you can just lay your hands on these animals and just inhale their scent and feel their power and receive that truth, again, I always say, if you can connect to a horse, you can connect to source, capital S, right? When you can do that and be open to receiving whatever they give to you, your life will change. And my life changed. I had a really not fun divorce. I used to tell a whole story, like he was a financial criminal and I was homeless and he was this, and I used to go all down that rabbit hole. Yes, it was a financial kerfuffle for 11 years. It took a fight, and we didn't have kids. It was a struggle because he was a 401k consultant. He was a financial criminal. And I was like, now what? I did all the things I was supposed to do. I did the marriage and the picket fence and the college and all the stuff. And I'm counting spiders and smoking cigarettes. What the heck? Like that's where I was like, this is just, I am so bored. And we don't think about boredom as something that is bad, like that actually can cause you to feel a certain way. But people like me, because I'm a Bella persona, I could probably talk for 3 hours about this stuff and like you'd be still like, really? Because there's so much, it's so deep. But boredom causes me pain. Being bored and is causing me pain. Now there's a difference, and this is the big thing that horses have taught me. And the Italians say it best: la dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. So there's a difference between being still and being bored. And I learned that difference from the horses just by understanding that it doesn't always have to be that, an Alabama song or a Russian rush until life's no fun. All we really do have to do is live and die. And we don't need it to be in a hurry.
So many people don't know how.
That's right. And they mask it.
Yeah.
Right. And so can you imagine having just to be out with the horses? And sometimes we'll just like kick off our shoes and just lay in the grass, and the horses are like munching the grass around us, and and ground with them. Interestingly enough, even when you're riding a horse, you're grounding because they're connected to the ground.
Typically, you work one-on-one with people or in group?
No, I have three things. I have a mastermind that is virtual of people that have been to me in one of my retreats. I have my retreats, and then I have my private coaching and executive coaching. So, but if you want to come here and work with me in person, come to one of my retreats.
So you offer retreats and people just join that retreat? Is that?
Yeah. Well, the way it works is because, like you said, I didn't have any awareness about, the horses or this. And I'm like, yeah. And when you arrive here, I want you to know who Dante and Trace and who are the people in your neighborhood before you get here. So I have an entire curriculum and a home study program and that you do. So you do like a 6-week program ahead of time that helps prepare you for the experience. Because when you go out there and you have a deeper understanding, it's no content. I don't need to teach you content. You can come out and actually have the healing experience, and we can do the deep work. Now, you could do the home study program anytime. You don't have to come to the retreat in person, but you can't come to the thing in person without doing the coursework first.
Are you telling me that you can do the home study and never come?
Yes, it's powerful. I had this belief. I love that you asked that question, because I had the same belief system that you're alluding to before COVID. I was like, nobody's going to get the level of impact. They have to come here and smell them and pick up their poop and pet them and feel their breath and blah, blah, blah. And yes, that's fantastic. And when COVID hit, I had to adapt. So I created this entire curriculum about like diving deep into each one of the personality types and going into, the Johari window and using all these different modalities to have an understanding. And I created a comprehensive curriculum understanding the different horses and understanding yourself through them. And then I lead that several times a year. I lead that live. It's a 6-week program. It's very inexpensive, allows people to be here, and then they use their tuition for that course as payment towards a retreat. So it's all, or you can bundle it up and do the package. So that's kind of my offering. So, and yeah, to answer your question, I've had people from Dubai and Tunisia, Australia, Mexico, Canada, all over the world, especially during COVID, going through my virtual programs. And they're like, I had no idea I could sit here and watch a video of a horse and have this level of a profound effect. It's blew my mind.
We definitely have.
Yeah. What's that?
I would say we definitely have to bless Zoom for
Oh yeah.
changing our
Thank God
lives.
for Zoom. For sure.
I did some energy. I do energy space clearing for people. And in the past, there was no way when I would talk about doing it remotely, they would like look at me. And today they can just take their phone, walk me through their place, and we're on Zoom and off we go, right? It's just amazing. But I'm so excited about this.
Me too.
Now, are generally, do more women come than men?
Yeah, I'm about 90% women.
90%
like this afternoon,
women.
I have a husband and wife coming out for a private experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that came as a result. I'm actually at a rescue, which we haven't even gotten to that part yet. But all of my horses are rescues, and my passion lies with bringing horses that from unfortunate situations to really have a radical disruption of that industry. The horse rescue industry is really just 16,000. There are over 16,000 horse rescues in this country, last time I checked. And they're all just kind of trying to like make their way and do their own thing. It's like they're all trying to reinvent their own wheel and have their own machine and have their own branding and have their own thing. Like, come on, guys, let's get cohesive around this and have an impact. So my vision is to not put the bucket under the drip and the roof. My vision is to create programs and systems and scalability to fix the roof once and for all.
Oh, that's amazing. So I'm just visualizing, okay, women. I love working with women also. And really, it could be as simple as they're not happy with their life. They don't have to have a diagnosis, right? You don't have to say, I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah, if you're on a bunch of, Xanax type of stuff, then work on no, that's not what I do. When you come here, a lot of women, ironically, go back and leave their husbands. They've been trying to find a way. You've been trying to figure out where their unhappiness is coming from. And a lot of you said, you've had a few spins around the sun, and the industrial age mindset of being capable or having the willingness to leave the family, for financial reasons or cultural reasons or family, pressure. That was my situation. I thank God my brother had gotten divorced ahead of me. I'm not sure I would have been able to be the first one in my family to get divorced.
Well, women especially, there's a lot of fear It takes them a
Yeah.
long time.
From like a dual income fear to kids custody, living alone, there's a lot. It takes a lot for us to actually, so to come here and like work with Dante or work with Maverick, or when you do go through this process and you start to discover yourself, because this is it. If you were to ask me in one sentence, like, what is it that I do? I help you discover who you are and reclaim your power through horsepower. Like, that's it. Who
Oh,
are
wow.
you? Who are
Wow.
you?
Wow.
Right?
That's a wow statement. That is an absolute wow statement. I'm going to get a group together.
Yeah, do it.
I am going to get a group together and
Yep. The sweet spot is around 8.
8
Yep.
women.
Yep.
Okay.
8 to 10. And for those of you that are listening, like, that's, just feel free to reach out. Is it okay if I
Yeah,
drop
please.
my stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there's, if you do want to reach out, you can just call me directly. I don't, my cell phone numbers are advertised everywhere.
Do you have a
So
website, Jen?
yeah, I do. I do. And it's interesting because the name of the company came up, Zenerjen. And people don't spell it with the G, guys. Zenerj, like Jennifer, En, Zenerjen, Zen energy, and I'm Jen. And that's where the name came from. And that's the name of the company. And you can, just call me or text me at 407-412-0252, or just Google Zenerjen, and my information will come up. Follow me on my socials. My YouTube channel is almost at 10,000 subscribers. So
Woo.
yeah, I started diving into YouTube after all my accounts got hacked. I had over 100,000 followers and my accounts got hacked, and then I went to 0. And my mom's like, "What? A friend request?" I'm like, well, so yeah, starting back from
Wow.
scratch a couple years ago has been, that was not fun, but it caused me to branch out into YouTube, which
But
I'm
you
loving.
have so much experience besides horses. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it's like you've done so many things and studied with so many different masters and have so much experience. So it's the blending of all your knowledge with what you know about the horses that you've created this program, you
Yeah.
know. Because as you were speaking, I don't want people to think, oh, she likes horses, and just because she likes horses, no,
That's the
you
bane of my
have,
existence, Hindy. It's like, oh, well, I know so and so. She rides 100 jumpers at something or other. I'm like, that is not what I do. In fact, I don't generally talk about the horses at all
yeah,
until I have people interested in actually what it is, what the benefits are. Now, sometimes, which again, like, marketing this stuff is like so hard. Do you
of
lead with the
course.
horse? Because then people have this mentality, like, Budweiser Clydesdale or whatever, or Kentucky Derby, and it's not that. It's,
Yeah,
it's,
but Jen, you're an intuitive, are you not?
oh my God. And put me out with my horses. I can tell you what your great grandmother had for breakfast when she was 12. It's like you get really, it is it's a different, that should be my tagline, a different kind of horsepower, because it has nothing to do with riding or getting the horse to do a task or anything like that. It has to do with turning that lens inward, because that's what I love about the title of your podcast, because it's in you, and the horses just reflect that with purity, no ego, and no judgment or projection. They're just saying, this is how you're showing up. And you're like, no, I'm not. And they're like, yeah, you are. Now that you can argue with me, because we have enough of our cerebral cortex is the same size. But when you look at a horse and you try and argue with the fact that the horse did this, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
But what I'm getting is when they're working with you, it's not just that you've created a curriculum. It's not just that you have horses. You're able, through your intuitive skills, to really help individuals in whatever way you do it, it doesn't matter. But, the one thing that I've always taken away from Tony Robbins events is I had an insecurity that I didn't have a PhD and a master's or a doctorate. And that was always an insecurity for me. When I heard Tony say, I have a degree in results, I went, me too. Yes, I do. Everyone I work with, I have a degree in results. And that's
Yeah,
what,
it
and
just you
that's
have
what
to have
you
you
have.
just need a little more social proof when that's the case, you know. You gotta, it's just a little bit more of you gotta show up a little bit more consistently, a little bit more confidently, and a little bit more. It's kind of like I don't have a lot of family, and my father won't speak to me because he doesn't like my career path, and my mom's dying, and my brother's like got his own issues. Like those are really the only three family members I have. I have a very small family, and I'm not really allowed to engage with my family. And that's been, that's been really hurtful for a long time. And last year my niece got married. um I have two older brothers. One's passed, and my brother who's passed, it was his daughter getting married. And I'm like, well, my dad can't keep me away from my mom at my niece's wedding. They have to be there. So I drove all the way to St. Louis to do this. And I was actually it's a long story, so I'll keep it short, but I was on this road to the rescue where I was traveling all over. I went to 13 different states, and I visited horse rescues all over the country, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Arkansas, you name it. And it was kicked off by my niece's wedding and back in April of last year. And I started having full blown, I could not drive over like 20 miles an hour panic attacks. And I'm a road warrior. I've traveled with my horses with a 42-foot rig in the mountains of Colorado, living in my horse trailer, camping out, driving, panic attack while I'm driving. I could not drive through Memphis, Tennessee across the bridge without a like cool moss, like 10 and 2, right? And I was trying to figure out what it was. And I realized it had to do with all of the trauma from my family. And so when you don't have family or a PhD or something that like conventional wisdom or society, Western culture has says is something that you should be able to rely on, you really do have to rely on the me, myself, and I. And it's made me a better friend because I can't compete with I have a good friend. I can't compete with her sister. I'm just the friend because what's the phrase? We all know it. Blood is thicker than water. And we're all like, well, it's your sister, so you have to tolerate her shit. Well, if it's Jen, it's like, no, you don't have to tolerate her shit. So the way I show up as a friend to people and a peer is you got a 10x it to Trump family, right? And here's the truth, you guys. That statement is incomplete. The statement actually is, and the reason I know this is because I don't have a family. The blood of the brethren that fought alongside me is thicker than the water of the womb. So it's actually the exact opposite. If you're going to go with what the saying is, the meaning behind the saying. The brethren, the blood, and when I first heard that for the first time, I was like, yes, that blood is thicker than water, people. Like I was like, it set me free, and I was being silly to make my point, but I was like, ah. And because I felt kind of like trapped, like I don't have a PhD, I'm trapped in this box of no education and not enough of this or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, take
there you go.
Right, and it set me free. And it said, well, other people that feel that way, I'm just going to be the best. And what does being a good friend actually mean? So I actually got the notebook out and started journaling about it. Like, this is what I do. And this is, if I was my own best friend, how would I want to show up for me? Right. And I started making a list, and I started becoming that person and really diving into my own program. Because after I went to the wedding, my dad, like I went and, tried to talk to my dad, and he turned his back on me at the wedding, wouldn't even take his head out of his phone. It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for him, but I had compassion. for whatever it was that he was dealing with, that he did not. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? He just has the Fisher Price emotional kids tool set. Like that's all he has available to him. And that's not a judgment or a dog on my father. I love my father, right?
Well, unfortunately, our parents had their own stuff that they went through, and some never went through it, and they're stuck. And
Yeah, they're just playing their own. And don't we all? I mean, we all. So to just have compassion for the fact that he's a human, while also saying, you know what? I don't, here's what set me free on that whole thing. One, elevate how I show up as a friend or people in my relationships, because I believe that relationships and experiences trump things and stuff any day of the week. Right. So I that was number one. Number two, it set me free from feeling the obligation to try and create a counterfeit connection with my family. And then my family became my chosen family, including my 5 amazing, beautiful horses, all of which are rescues or have had some kind of trauma of their own to deal with.
that's
And when you
beautiful.
can say, yeah, I can stand alone. No man is an island. We don't want to do things that want to go fast, go alone, want to go far, go together. That's all great. And we tap into all of that stuff in my relationship labyrinth that's inside my coursework. In fact, this June, I'm doing an expansion on the relationship labyrinth, because it is, who do you want to have in your inner circle and who do you not want to have? And how do you need to show up for that?
That's
And how do
beautiful.
you take a look at your own self first and put that mirror on yourself first? And then say, okay, now with this magnet, I will be able to attract this steel. Now, if that's the case, you are the magnet. And I don't go out and trust me. My horses all got out this morning. Y'all, that was fun. I get a text message. Your horse. I'm like, great. It's 33 degrees in Florida. I want to go out and Kathy, that's another gal that's here at the rescue with me. She's like trying to run and trying, take a halter and go catch them. I'm like, she goes, how are you so calm? I'm like, you ever tried to chase a horse? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you had quite the morning. So, Jen, if you could leave us with one pearl of wisdom,
Just one. I can't
just
give
one.
like a whole strand. No, just kidding. Uh, I just I don't want to be cliche, but I end all of my videos with believe in yourself. It's even on my mug here. Believe in yourself, right? And a lot of people criticize that, oh, don't believe in yourself. Just do the things and the belief will come. It's six of one. It's the chicken or the egg. Belief, then action, or action, then belief. I think I think what you really, if you were to say one thing, if you can, go find a horse. Go somewhere where you can be around horses or in nature of some kind, and then just be still for a period of time and give yourself, even if it's just like on the highway and you're driving down the road, go stand at the fence next to them. A lot of times they'll come over. They're curious. They can't help themselves or not. And just be still for a few minutes and ask yourself, how do you want to live every day of your life? You got a finite number of Saturdays, guys. Tomorrow's one of them. How do you want to exist in this world of the 3D as we fly around on this mud ball called Earth? And when you get out in nature and you take a little note from the Italians and enjoy the sweetness of nothing for a few minutes, a lot of times the whispers will break through the noise and the chaos of your day to day. And I'll leave it with this. They don't call me a horse whisperer because I whisper to the horses. They call me a horse whisperer because I listen to the whisper of the horse.
Oh,
And
that's so
that, my friend,
beautiful.
is horsepower.
That's so beautiful. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. I learned so much today.
Ah,
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. And thank you for having me. I hope all of your listeners get